What I'm gonna do here is strap down the sofa bed to the couch so that way it doesn't want to pop open on me when I go to stand it up. Very important to make sure you do that, especially if you're going to be carrying it or flipping it around on a hand truck or a dolly. You don't want it to fling open on you and hit a wall or hit a door and cause damage. Plus, you don't want to lose control of the piece and drop it. So always carry something with you in your trucks that you can tie that down with. Now, outside of this office, there's a pretty good sized hallway, and then there's a bathroom kind of off to the side. So I'm going out backwards with it, and the reason why is I have some height there. So it's easier for me to bring it out and kind of swoop it upwards if I went backwards than if I try to go forward, because I'm going to end up hitting the next wall before I have time to clear the door at the front of the hand truck. To share a piece of advice I had received a few years ago when I worked as a mover. One of our clients was a CEO of a health type of business where they did sales and stuff. I don't fully remember exactly what he did, but he was very successful. He had a very nice house, very nice stuff, very wealthy, and he seemed to have taken a liking to me throughout the 3 days we worked with him. He said I had good leadership skills, I was calm under pressure, and I was very good at the problem solving, which is really common with movers. So nothing like special on that end. But overall, he just said, I have the type of qualities that he looks for in employees. And he offered me to come work with him at his company. And at the time, it wasn't something I would really want to particularly do. And it was a little bit of a drive if I did do it. So I politely declined. And he was like, well, what's your end goal here? Because obviously you don't want to keep being a mover forever. What are you looking to do in your next 5-10 years? And I said, I really not sure, but I wouldn't mind doing like my own thing, have my own business, do a side hustle, something. Because I've always seen myself as, I've always wanted to control, I guess, what I do, because I sometimes butt heads with managers. I'm very loyal when it comes to being an employee. I'm not going to talk shit behind your back. I'm not going to not show up. I'm not going to intentionally do a poor job. I'm very loyal in that regard, but sometimes I have my own thing in my head where I'm like, this is the right thing to do. And maybe the manager's like, no, this is corporate. We need to do this, do that. I'm like, this is stupid. So deep down, I just always had a little bit of like friction, I guess, when it comes to that. Nothing major, at the end of the day, they're the boss and I respected that. but it was something that always came up with me. So enough of that. But I know a lot of people seeing our videos are other junk removal companies or a similar type of service, but I also know a lot of you don't have a business. You don't do junk removal. Maybe you're just interested in doing your own thing. And I know that because we get a lot of comments about it. When I was a mover, I didn't really see end goal. I didn't have this whole thing set up in my mind. This was all something I came up with in like a span of 2 days, driving back from Maryland to Florida during a move I was doing, a long distance move. And it all just popped in my head. And I was like, I don't want to keep doing this. I don't know what to do though, but I don't want to keep, I was trying to just figure out like, I don't know what skill sets I have. I've worked in catering, I've worked in retail, and I've worked in restaurants. I don't want to open my own restaurant. I don't want to do catering. Fuck that. And I don't want to work in any kind of retail type of situations. Like, I was athletic. I had some strength, but I don't have a set skill set, And for that reason, I always felt like opening my own business wouldn't be ideal because I don't have that skill set. I don't have a specific passion that I could just go out and do. And that was always holding me back. And the client at that time said, if you want to do your own thing, the best thing you can do for yourself is just pick something and start. And I know that's a common situation, but what he said to me at the time didn't really resonate. But looking back on it is what I think is great advice. So what he said was, look, if you're just trying to do your own thing and make money, that's it. Find something that's already a popular market, a very saturated industry, like junk removal, for example, moving, handyman services, pressure washing, very saturated. Why? Because it's in demand. The good thing about that is you may not make all the money around you, but you will make enough to get by. And then at that point, it is up to you to separate yourself from your competition by whatever means you can find. And look, seeing that now, how crazy it is with competition, it makes a lot of sense. We have hundreds, plural, of companies around us, and we're still able to make 6 figures a year. We're not killing ourselves every day. We could be busier, but we're making 6 figures a year in a highly competitive market. So who's to say that someone working a 9 to 5 making 30 grand a year who hates their life wants to do their own thing, and they say, oh, I don't want to do handyman or pressure washing. Too many of the companies out there. If there's that many companies, that means there's a demand for it. People aren't going to do something that nobody wants. Doesn't make sense. So just the more I'm in it, the more that just made so much sense to me. Another reason to do that is marketing. It's cheaper to market an industry that people are already familiar with than to try to explain to people what you do and how your service helps. That is something that I didn't even process back then, and it makes so much sense. And the third thing was, when you go to hire employees, if you get to that step, this is what he told me back then, it's easier to hire people for a common trade or to sell a common product than it is a very specific or unique one, because now you have to train them to do that. If it's very common, basic, easy to understand, easy to learn, it's going to be easier to teach, and therefore you're going to save money in the long run, and your employees aren't going to have to be so specific, which is going to save you a headache. And way back then, I was like, I definitely don't want to have to deal with employees, and ironically, I still don't. But I thought what he had told me, really looking back on it, is just genius, if you're trying to do something passion project wise, slightly different story. You're going to have to do a little bit of research on that. You're going to have to really find your niche, and you're going to have to just, run with it. But if you're just looking to make money, find something that's already popular and replicate it. It's like when you go to a grocery store, you walk down an aisle, how many different brands of cereal are there? How many different energy drinks are out there? And yet every time I go in the gas station, there's a new energy drink. And are they going to be in business in a year because they're fighting with Red Bull and Monster and Bang? Maybe not. I guarantee you they're going to make money until then, though. And if they wanted to continue growing, I'm sure they could. We don't know their intentions. But the point is that just because it's already a common type of industry or market doesn't mean you can't jump on board and still make money off of it. So if you're looking to start something, whether it's junk removal or moving or handyman, pressure washing, or something a little bit more specific, but maybe it's popular in your area, don't let high competition hold you back. That just means that it's relevant. So I don't really think about that advice too often, but it came up in conversation with my neighbor I was talking about. He said he's in a situation where he works a 9 to 5, he's been doing it for 31 years, and he's in his late 40s, and he's just kind of getting tired of it and doesn't know what to do. And I told him what that client had told me, and kind of talking about it out loud, I was, even in my mind as I was saying it, I was like, shit, he was right. That makes a lot of sense. So if you're on the fence, I encourage you to look into the advice my client gave me. Find something that's already out there, replicate it. It also makes it a lot easier because all the research is already done for you. It's already all out there. So if you're on the fence, hopefully that gives you a little bit of a push to do your own thing.